So now that we've created our pegboard and it's all there in its place, we need to make an assembly. At the bottom there's an assembly tab. When you load it, it'll be nice and blank, waiting for you to add parts into it. Click on Insert, and you can see all the parts that you have currently opened down in your Parts Studio. This is all the individual pieces of yours. You can click an individual part and bring that into the assembly one at a time. What I've found works even better is grabbing this entire part and bringing it all in at once. Right now it's attached to your mouse. You could put it anywhere, or if you just click on the green checkbox, it will automatically place it centered on this origin right here. Here's our assembly. At this point, all the bodies are separated, meaning I can grab a part like the square peg and drag it and move it, and it doesn't know anything about the other parts. It can phase through them and just go wherever it needs to. This is true with all the pegs. They can move however you drag them around. So we need to start telling things where they need to sit. First, the main board I want to fix so it can't move at all. Right click on it and choose Fix. You'll notice that this symbol appears next to the board saying it's fixed. You should always fix one thing and only one thing in every assembly, and then everything else will reference from there. Now that the board is attached, I want to attach the side legs to the board itself. Because they're already in place, if you click each of these three, so they're selected, notice up here they're also turning blue to show that they are selected. We're going to group all of these together so they always move together, and since the board cannot move, that means none of them can move. Group is this button right here. When you click it, it'll verify all the parts you want in that group. Notice as you hover them, they have a nice little gold effect going on. When you hit the checkbox, they are now grouped, and they can no longer move independent, but the pegs can still move. Now on the left, we have a new section called Mate Features. It has one thing in it so far, Group 1. If you click Group 1, all the things in Group 1 will change to yellow. Next, we want to add relationships between these other pegs and the board itself. Up along this menu here are several different types of mates. The first one is Fasten. It makes things attached firmly together so they cannot move. Next is Revolute. It's for something that can spin within, like a wheel. The next one is called Slider. It's for an object that slides in and out, a lot like our pegs. This is the main one we're going to be using. Next one is Planer, for things that can move all along a plane. Think of playing air hockey, and the puck can move all over the table. Next one is Cylindrical. It can rotate and move in and out. Think of that like our cylinder here. We could stick it in with any rotation and stick it in and out. The next one is Pin Slot. It is a cylinder that can move along its slot and rotate. Then we have a Ball Mate. That's like a shoulder joint, can rotate in every direction. And Parallel Mate keeps two faces flat while letting it move in almost every other direction. So we are going to choose the Slider Mate first. If you choose the wrong one, you can change the type in this menu right here. When you choose a mate type, it wants to know mate connectors. As you hover over a face, you'll notice all these little white points that show up, and you can attach this little mate connector to any of those points. Notice the mate connector has a blue, green, and red axes coming out of it. When you select one of the points, I like the middle one. Then whatever else you want to reference it to, you want to select a similar point. Because I chose middle here, as I hover this board, all of its points show up, and you'll notice there's one in the middle of the square again. Because I chose the middle before, if I choose the middle now, they will line up and the square peg has been inserted. Before you move on from here, hit this little play button, and that will animate the freedom that you've given it. How can this peg move? In this case, it moves up and down, exactly like we want. That means we did it right. Go ahead and hit the checkbox. Now you can play with your peg. It'll move up and down, and that's the only way it can move. I'm going to skip the circle for now and move on to the triangle, because we're going to do a slider on the triangle as well. You could pick the middle again, but just for variety, I'm going to pick one of the corners this time. Because I picked a corner, I should reference that also to a corner and line those up. As long as you pick the two that line up, then it's going to work how you expect it to. On the plus peg, I'm going to mess up to show you how you can fix one. So if I choose that corner and that edge, you'll notice that it made it in a very strange way that doesn't do at all what I wanted. There are a couple of options here to try and fix it. One of them is rotate, which will spin the peg around one of the axes, but that still doesn't make the motion the way we want it. The other one is flip, which flips the piece around, but that still doesn't do the motion we want. If we continued our mistake and accepted this, our peg will let us think this is correct and slide along like this. If you look over at the Mate Features section, you can find that references those two parts and delete it. That will release your peg back to free moving, and you could try again. Even though it's sideways now, that's okay. If you pick the correct 2 points, for example the center and the center, it will line itself back up properly and animate correctly. With those 3 slide pegs done, let's do our cylinder next. It gets to be a cylindrical mate. As you choose the same 2 connection points, I like the middles best. When you animate it, notice that it also rotates. Whether it goes up or down isn't too critical because the peg can go all the way through. So you can flip that if it bugs you or not. Now as you move this, you can't tell, but it can rotate. Because we have a solid color, it's hard to see. But it's a proper amount of freedom that it should have. And there you have it. Your 4 pegs can now properly move within their board, and that is the only way that they can currently move.